Hey guys, this is the Therapist Gamer here. Today I thought we'd do something a little different for the video for the week. And today I'm going to start a new fun series called The Therapist Gamer Installs an Old Game on a Modern PC. The game that we're going to be taking a look at today is the classic game System Shock. I hope you enjoy this, and let's get started. So I've been wanting to do something a little off the beaten path recently, and last week a video came out about a redone version of the old game System Shock that came out in the 90s. And they're redoing the game using what looks like an updated engine, and it's going to have updated graphics. It's going to be using 3D models instead of sprites. Looks like a really fun time. The original System Shock, if you're not familiar with it, was an amazing game. And I thought it would be an excellent game to kind of give a shot for this particular series that I wanted to try and do alongside my more educational videos and editorial videos. This is just sort of a fun tutorial, maybe, where I take some of the old games out of my collection and I try and install them on my modern PC. Here we're going through the menus of the CD-ROM. System Shock came on either floppy disk for a basic version, and then this is the CD-ROM version, which had some extra media files, things like some full motion video and that sort of thing with it. So we're gonna try installing the CD-ROM version, and the first thing that I generally do when I'm trying to install an old game on a modern PC is just install it. But as you can see from my struggles here in the first few minutes, the System Shock is not wanting to install. The next thing that I try and do is copy the files over from the CD to the PC and just see if we can run it straight from the files on the PC. It's probably not going to happen. I mean, given the fact that we couldn't run the file originally from the CD, it didn't install. The likelihood that we can install it or run it from a copy of those files is probably pretty slim, but it's something to try if you're trying to install or run an old game like this. So a lot of times you didn't have all the dependencies on Windows. I mean, this is a pure DOS game. There was no Windows. I guess we had Windows at the time, but this was not a Windows game. This ran in pure DOS mode. So now what's happening here is I've gotten an error message as I tried to copy over the files that some of the files don't exist on the disk anymore. Couldn't find this item, which is odd because it's obviously right there when I pull up the files, but it simply won't copy over from the disk. This is probably due to some sort of copy protection on the disk. That was not unusual in the early days of CD-ROMs. I mean, we still have copy protection today, but it's much more sophisticated. But it was not unusual for files to simply not show on a CD-ROM. So after trying for a few minutes to copy over these files, I finally give up and we're going to try something else. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're just going to try and run the program from the files rather than try and copy over all of them. And we get this message. This is going to be a common message that we probably see as we're trying to install older things. The next thing to do when you get that type of message is try and run it as an administrator. See if that helps. The message that I get as I try and run it as an administrator is Windows cannot find old games systemshock.exe. So I tried both versions. There's a regular System Shock that doesn't have those extra media files, and then there's the CD version that does have the extra media files. I tried both versions. Neither one works. I get that error message both times. The next thing that you want to do when you're trying to run an old game is try compatibility mode. Windows 10 still offers a compatibility mode. As you can see, it goes all the way back to Windows 95. Generally, I like Windows 98, Windows ME compatibility mode. It seems to be the most compatible of all the modes for old games. But even compatibility mode is not working here. And even compatibility mode as an administrator is not working. So, now we've got some work to do. So, the next thing that we have to do is we have to hit Google. And we're going to see about running System Shock. I generally search for Windows 7. If you search for Run System Shock on Windows 10, you're probably going to get less results simply due to the fact that Windows 10 is a fairly new operating system. So Windows 7 has been around for a good while, and it's still a fairly powerful and capable operating system. So many people are still running it, and many people have probably tried. As you can see, I'm making a fatal mistake here that eventually comes back to bite me and waste a lot of time, is that a lot of the search results that I'm going to get are related to System Shock 2, also another fantastic game, but not the game that we're looking for. One of the fun things about trying to install an old game on a new system is this process of having to use some detective skills. I've always found that process to be pretty fun, and it's something that I like to do. So here's a web page about running System Shock on a Windows 10 machine, and it's pointing me to this SSP tool file. At this point, I go through a process of trying to locate the SSP tool file, and it just never is able to be found. I finally give up and decide that we're going to try a tried and true method, and that's the use of DOSBox. If you're not familiar with DOSBox, DOSBox is a fantastic little program that allows you to run old DOS games in a modern Windows operating system. DOSBox it's been years since I used it, and way back probably 10, 12 years ago when I used it, it was not very well supported. It had a lot of issues. And I'll be curious to see how well it works these days. I was really hesitant to try this simply because of my past experience with DOSBox. But at this point, because I've I've tried to locate a tool to run System Shock and haven't been able to find it. And that's one of the dangers of trying to find a tool like that, is that oftentimes you're just not going to be able to find it for these really old games. One of the things that I found in my detective work in trying to run System Shock is that Good Old Games, which is the distributor for classic games, came out with their own version of System Shock that didn't require, all this workarounds. It just runs on Windows natively. And because they did that, they bought the rights to distribute the game. And since they had the rights to distribute the game, they sort of shut down all the places where that SST tool or SSP tool could be found. And therefore, I couldn't find the tool no matter how many places I looked. I did find one for System Shock 2, and as you can see, I'm trying to run System Shock 2, and then I give up and go to DOSBox. The first thing that happens when I run DOSBox is I get this display driver stopped responding and has recovered message over and over and over again. It just keeps looping. Not sure what that's about. That did stop as soon as I think I moved the window a little bit or typed something in the window, and then it stopped, which was interesting. But whatever, I'll take it. So I had forgotten that DOSBox takes a little creativity in order to get it to work. You can't just go to a drive natively. You have to mount the drive, kind of like you would on a Unix system or a Linux system. So the first thing that I do is I mount the CD drive, and I mount it to the W drive, and I try and install it. And if you've ever installed an old DOS game, this is kind of typical of the menus that you would often get as you installed an old DOS game. You would choose a music card. Generally for modern systems, you want to choose General MIDI. And any of the Sound Blaster cards will usually work okay with the modern Sound Blaster. And as you can hear, the music plays fine, and the digital audio plays fine. And then I go and try and install it, and I realize that it can't write to the directory because it's trying to install it to my W drive, which is my CD-ROM drive, or my DVD drive in this case. So we've got to actually mount two drives here, one for the CD-ROM or DVD drive, and one for the actual install location. So I've got W mounted already. We're going to drop out of the install program and go back to DOSBox. And before I install it, I'm going to make sure I delete those old files that I copied over from the CD the first time I tried to run it. And we're going to go back and install it into the SShock directory under old games on my main data drive. But the first thing I'm going to do is mount that directory to, I'm going to mount the CD-ROM drive to volume V. And I'm going to mount I'm just checking to make sure that it shows up and everything looks okay. And I've already got the W drive mounted to the shock directory. So now I've got V. I'm going to V, and I'm going to install it from the CD-ROM, and hopefully we're going to install it to W here in just a second. So we got to go back through the sound setup. This was something you generally had to do before you installed most games, because it would write it to the config files as you installed it. We got to choose a directory here. We don't want to. It won't find C because we haven't mounted that, but it will find W, and we'll tell it to go to W as shock. And then we'll try and install it. And it appears to be working okay. Installation's complete. And as you can see there, it's run CD Shock to play the System Shock Enhanced CD-ROM, or run S Shock for the regular. So we're going to run CD Shock. And if anyone is familiar with this game, this will bring back a wave of nostalgia. Starting right here. Probably one of the greatest opening sequences ever put into a video game.
11:13 p.m. Hacker begins.
You have to remember that at the time that this game came out, the games that we had before this were things like Doom, things like Duke Nukem, not the Duke Nukem 3D, but the original platformer Duke Nukem, things like Wolfenstein. What we were seeing here on a computer was just light years ahead of anything that we had seen before this. System Shock was a truly groundbreaking game.
Edward Diego gives the hacker level 1 access to Shodan, the artificial intelligence that controls Citadel Station. With all ethical constraints removed, Shodan
I re-examine my priorities and draw new conclusions.
And that part right there just always gives me chills.
But mine is only just
Beginning. True to his word, Edward Diego allows the hacker to be fitted with a neural cyberspace interface. The healing coma following this procedure will take 6 months to complete. Edward Diego is deleting all files concerning these events.
Here's the other thing about DOSBox is that we're running in a tiny little window. You know, the most you were going to get on a system back in those days was 640 by 480. Most games before that, you know, games like Doom ran in 320 by 240 at half the resolution. So you're generally, with a lot of old DOSBox games, going to get a very tiny little window because the resolution is really small in comparison to, you know, today's normal resolution of 1080p, 1920 by 1080. This was also something that we had never seen before in a first-person game. This really complex menu. In today's terms, it wouldn't be very complex, but in those days, you know, things like Doom, there was no interface really. It was just, you had some status indicators for the amount of ammo you had and your health. But you didn't have all this menu. You didn't have all the stuff to do here. So this was new. This was something we had never seen before. The one complaint that I've always had about System Shock is the movement system. Movement was kludgy. You see it there at the top left, that green button that kind of looks like a top-down view of a car, or the things right next to the guy. That's basically an indication of your stance. So you'll see here in a minute where you move the stance around to look up or down or to crouch. So I finally found the full screen mode and engaged it. But what I haven't done is change the resolution. System Shock offered several resolutions. Another pretty groundbreaking thing. It ran out of the box. It ran at 320 by 240 or 320 by 200, I think. But you could turn it up as high as 640 by 480, which I'll do here in a minute. But I had forgotten that you could do that. As you see, you can pick up items and stick them into slots in your inventory or use them to recover your health. There you go. That's changing the stance you see there. So you stick things in the inventory and you can kind of switch between your different menus and inventories. I've probably played this opening sequence 50 times in my life. Now, granted, the last time I played it was probably 16, 17 years ago. But I was sort of amazed at how much I remembered of it. There's my pipe. That's your weapon at the beginning of the game. You do get more weapons as you go. This was System Shock, and its later incarnations were really closer to an RPG these days, closer to something like Deus Ex, or they've said that System Shock was a precursor for Deus Ex, and in a lot of ways they're very, very similar games. Standing up there. I'm sure there were keystrokes to do that, but I couldn't remember what they were at the time. The default keys that were bound to movement were also a little different than what you would normally get. Normally, movement in most first-person games is WASD these days. The default keys, as they stood for System Shock, are, I think, ASDX. So A and D were turning to the sides, and then S was moving forward, and I think X was backward. So you could take things off of the destroyed robots. So it's right here I decide, oh yeah, I can change the resolution of the game. Let's try to do that. But I can't remember how to get there. I always thought there was a menu button, but I guess there was not a main menu button. You actually have to press escape, which I'll do here in a second. As you can see, there's the looking up and looking down button. So something's hitting me. And I finally find the escape key to change the options. There's my video options, video mode. So we had 320 by 200, 320 by 400, 640 by 400, and 640 by 480. And now we're at somewhat reasonable level, at least back for those times. The one thing I do remember when, on pretty much any system, if you turn the video, especially if you're a full screen, and turn the video up to 640 by 480, your computer was going to slow to a crawl. You were never going to see the frame rates that I'm getting in DOSBox here on a modern PC. The typical save system for a game of its time. Not much has changed there, I guess. So you could only dream about getting, 60 frames a second in this game when it first came out, or actually probably for years afterwards. You were not going to get 60 frames a second ever. Because everything ran in software mode. There was no such thing as graphics acceleration here. This is pure software. So this is all GPU or CPU. There's no GPU acceleration here. Now, one of my favorite activities in this game was destroying the security cameras. I used to love to smash the security cameras. But they could be tough you had to be looking in exactly the right place in order to do it. So there's a little taste of System Shock. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. And I will talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.